It's Aries season, babies. Hey, this is Dr. Cassandra coming to you with a presentation on this number one sign of the zodiac. Happy vernal equinox. Happy birthday to all you Aries people out there. I'm going to be letting you know a little bit of information about this sign, about the upcoming lunations, and about how to work with Aries energy for health and wellness. So here we go. I titled this Move Over, It's Aries Season, which if you have Aries people in your life, then you get it. This sign is associated with the beginning of life. So if you think about it, when you're first born, all you know is yourself and your needs. And that's essential, even though a lot of us are, brought up to feel like selflessness is important. We come into this life alone and we leave alone. And self-preservation is really essential. So it's kind of like the number one lesson of life. If you need something, you got to cry for it until you get it. So that's that Aries lesson. As I said, it's the first sign of the astrological new year. It's associated with the spring equinox, and right now we've already started the new moon. So it's today through the 23rd. And yes, there is an exact point when the sun and the moon are conjunct, which is the technical new moon moment. But I like to talk about it in terms of a lot more grace and how you can work with it. And that's when the sun and the moon are in the same sign. That's the new moon, right? So it's an extra concentration of that Aries energy. So the intentions that you want to set right there are along the lines of the self. So personal goals and aspirations and like what you need to do, how you need to take action. Right. And then 2 weeks from now, we're going to have that full moon. So that's when the sun is in Aries and the moon is in Libra. It's opposite. Right. And so if Aries is the self, Libra represents partnership. And, at the end of the day, what does a partner do but shine a light on you? So that's a beautiful metaphor that the sun and moon are playing out now. And as you manifest, like you take those goals that you started working on when you set the intentions now during the new moon, and then you're going to manifest them in a way that, incorporates everything else in your existence. And so it's like how to play well with others, right? All right. So, the planetary ruler of Aries is Mars and Mars and Mars and Mars all day, right? So, if this is yang energy, it's fire energy. The quality is a cardinal energy, and the cardinal signs are at the beginning of each season. And so it's how we kick things off. Cardinal signs respond to something. So it's action, reaction. If there's a need, then they're going to fulfill it. And so the polarity, as I mentioned before, is Libra, and each zodiac sign is associated with a different part of the body, and Aries is associated with the head. So it goes Aries and then down the zodiac until we get to the feet with Pisces. And we're going to talk in a little bit about how to work with the head and how to cultivate more wellness specific to this Aries energy during this time of year. If we want to think about it this way too, as I mentioned before, Aries is associated with the beginning of life, and during a physiological birth, the head comes out first, right? And so that's like our first look out into the world. It's like, it's like a little ram butting its way into the world, and that's Aries. So I listed here are a couple of characteristics, but if you know Aries people, then you get it, right? So it's that, bold, fearless energy. It's, it takes action. It's self-oriented. And it's associated with like the soldier. The soldier like leaps into action, and typically like the soldier is young and full of bravery. And it's at that time of life where the prefrontal cortex isn't done developing. So there's not a lot of cause and effect happening. And not to say that this is true of all Aries people. And of course, even people with like an Aries sun sign have other, energies in their chart, but it's that like looking before leaping energy. And that's why I think that parallel of a soldier goes so well. So it's like I said, it's action reaction. In Spanish, we have a phrase like no se queda dado, like Aries doesn't stay hit. Like it's tit for tat and then it's done. Aries doesn't hold a grudge. So, it's like you get in there, you take care of business, or you don't, you start and then you move on to whatever the next thing is. So, I've got a couple of celebrity examples. Here they are, and I included a bunch. I didn't want to leave anybody out, but we've got folks with sun, moon, and rising, and of course, number one, I put Mariah Carey. I feel like she epitomizes Aries energy so well. And speaking of that no se queda dado energy, you can see it. I like she'll write, somebody will say something about her in the news and she'll write a sassy song about them. Or the thing that first is like garnered my fandom from her was that I heard a story that in the 90s when she first came out, there was a celebrity who was being interviewed and they asked them what kind of music that they liked, and they were like, oh, I like all kinds of things. I can't really name a favorite, but I'll tell you what I don't like. I can't stand Mariah Carey. And the person went on to then like badmouth Mariah Carey's music. And Mariah Carey went out and like stole this person's boyfriend. And like, even though that's not behavior that, that's not something I would do or behavior that I would condone as a Gemini and as a storyteller, I think it's hilarious and so mischievous. And so that kind of like, caught my attention and really allowed me to appreciate that, that side of her. So we see, if you look at the list here, like Mariah Carey, Aretha Franklin, Celine Dion, Lady Gaga, Selena, and then with the moon, Whitney Houston, Rihanna, and then rising, Rihanna again, Shakira, Cardi B. So there's a lot of like diva energy, right? And I would say that Aries definitely does epitomize that like diva energy. I had the amazing good fortune, my first and ever corporate job. The person who was training me, and then eventually my best friend on the job, was an Aries. And I really learned about like self-promotion from her, like talking about what you're doing, letting everybody know that you're doing it well. And so even though Aries isn't necessarily associated with like leadership, like not like a Capricorn or like a Leo kind of energy, it's more like you get noticed for what you do. And I saw the value of that in the workplace, especially in that particular workplace. And then you can see here how you've got a lot of pioneers. It's a pioneer spirit. So, the first people to, come out with a certain type of music or to play a certain role or to embody themselves or to be out. You'll see that here. You also see a lot of like mogul energy, right? Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Pablo Escobar, John D. Rockefeller, right? Jeff Bezos, Alexander the Great, right? You've got a lot of this like high energy, just like, go for it type of energy here among Aries people. All right. So what I want to talk about, Aries being associated with the head. I wanted to talk about a little bit of dinacharya, which is the Ayurvedic term basically for your morning wellness routine, right? Or your daily wellness routine. And it's interesting how much of the beginning of that begins with the head. So as I mentioned, Aries rules the head, and it's from the maxilla up, right? Where the mandible is Taurus's zone, mandible in the throat. But from here up, that's Aries energy. And the first thing we want to do is we'll get up, and of course we want to eliminate, like get rid of the day before. But then after we do that, and after we begin our dinacharya, first thing you want to do is wash your eyes, right? That cools the pitta or fire element detoxification process that was happening in the night before. And that really just like cools it down and kind of sets the tone. Even though the eyes, astrologically speaking, correspond with the luminaries, like they're right there in your head, and we've got to like cool that pitta fire energy. The next step is oleation, and coconut oil is also really good for cooling. It's not going to be great for everybody, especially like if you have a lot of white coating on your tongue. Then you'll want to use like a sesame oil. And then before you do this, you'll also scrape your tongue. You can use a tongue scraper, but I just use a spoon. It's, same thing. So you just take a spoon and scrape your tongue. And then that white coating, you rinse that off, and then you repeat until that's all off. And then you'll take some of the oil. I think coconut oil is really compatible with this, and it's also antimicrobial, all the rest of it. And it's especially good if you've got like a mouth that's prone to sores, or like hot spots on your tongue, or that kind of thing. Or if you get a lot of like inflammation in your tongue, coconut oil is very cooling, and it's really effective for this. So gandush is the oil pulling, and a lot of people have an aversion to this, but if you can do it as long as you can tolerate at first and then build up to a couple of minutes, it's so beneficial. And then you'll want to take some oil, and you can put it in the palm of your hand and then roll your pinky finger in it. And then you do both, or like this. And then you put them up your nostrils, and then that helps to really lubricate the nostrils. And that's so helpful now, especially as the seasons are changing, and it's still a little windy and dry here in March and then into April. And just really all the time, lubricating those nostrils and then lubricating the ears. So effective. And then you'll go on and do a head massage. You can do this with oil and then wash your hair, or if it's a non-wash day, you can always cover your head. And just in general, especially in the spring and the cooler temperatures, you'll want to have your head covered. You lose a lot of heat through the head, and it's just very protective. But head massage, you want to make sure that you're stimulating the scalp, right? But then also, so that's like with a light touch. And you want to go all over, but then you want to do like a deep, like a heavier press, so that you're moving the skin on the scalp across the skull, right? And it's going to make your eyebrows wiggle a little bit. So that's what you want to do. And just like a head massage all over. And then just in general, make sure that you're using natural products free of sulfates. A really good rule of thumb is like, if you can't eat it, you probably shouldn't put it anywhere on your body, because your skin is also an organ of absorption, and it absorbs everything that's put on it. So again, if you can't eat it, then and you put it on your skin, you're eating it. So that's pretty much it. Short and sweet, to the point, just like Aries appreciates. I hope you all have a beautiful spring equinox, a beautiful astrological new year, and take care.